So we first want to welcome everyone to our first webinar 2024. We are planning to start doing these more often, hopefully at least a few each year. We're going to switch back and forth between this and our maintenance software. So if you have our maintenance software, we will also be doing some webinars for those. I first want to start off by introducing myself. My name is Ryan Kendall. I'm the president here at AllMax. I was promoted to this role in October of 2023. A lot of you might remember Russ Maxwell, who I replaced at this position. Russ and Patty have since retired, and we'll talk about that here in a second. A little bit about me. I've been with the company for over 12 years now. Some of you may have worked with me. I started out in tech support and worked, my way up through the company to this position. And I'm extremely excited about it. I'm excited about the future of the company and where things are going. And so the first thing I want to update on, like I said, Patty and Russ, they're enjoying retirement at this point. Back in February of 2023, they decided to retire and they sold the company to another company called JDM Technology Group. JDM owns, I think, around 30 software companies. When they first purchased, we originally merged with another software company called Impulse. So if you saw anything with Impulse, if any of the emails or signatures, the last year we were merged with them, but since November we separated, and AllMax is back to being our own entity. So AllMax is their own company, and we are completely separated from Impulse, and there's no more ties to that company other than the fact that they are also a JDM Technology Group company. So with all that being said, what does that mean for you guys, and what's in store for AllMax going forward? Mostly what that means for you is that since JDM purchased, we have more resources than we've ever had. And we want to talk about some of the things that we are working on. We are working on a new version of operations. That version of operations will be available in cloud hosting. So features like having DataViews on the go and being able to enter data out in the field, and just getting to the app via browser. So lots of cool stuff there. Just because we're releasing that, though, that doesn't mean it's a requirement. The on-prem software will still be available, but I know that this is where a lot of industries are going, so it's something exciting for us, and we're excited to offer it to our clients. Also, it's important for us to really stress the fact that we pride ourselves on our exceptional customer service, and none of that's going to change. We still are a smaller company, and the support staff is smaller, all hired in-house, and everybody you work with is an AllMax employee. So you're still getting that small company feel, but with the larger resources now of a bigger company. So ultimately for us, we believe this is going to be a better experience for our clients. We're still going to bring the things we've always brought, and we're have that personal relationship with all of our clients, but now we have a backing and more resources to bring more features and more things to you guys going forward. Once this webinar concludes, we would love to hear your guys' thoughts. We're always looking for feedback, and we want to improve these. We want to hear about what topics you guys think that we should cover, any ideas you want us to go over, and we'll discuss all of them. We're open to anything, and we want these to be valuable for you guys, and get the most out of them. So following this webinar, you will receive an email that will give you all the information that you need. You're going to have a link to the recording. You're going to have a link to a form that allows you to give your feedback. There will also be a form there for you to ask questions. Because of how many people are going to be attending, we're not going to take questions during the webinar, but you can submit your questions through this form once you receive the email. And what we're going to do is we're going to answer every question, and then we're going to put it together in a document, and we're going to email it out to everybody that attended the webinar. That way, hopefully, you get benefit from other people's questions as well. All right, with that being said, I just wanted to give an update on where things have happened or where things are at, because there's been so many changes for all of us in the last year, and I know you guys may be wondering things about the purchase and where things are going. So I wanted to introduce myself, but now we're going to get into the actual webinar, and I want to introduce who's going to be performing the webinar. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with him. BJ Yoder, he's been with the company for a very long time, and he's got over 18 years of experience in the field. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to BJ and let him get started.
All right, well, let's get started. First of all, good morning. Look forward to handling this. So what we're going to do today is we've talked about, we're going to explain what DataViews are. We're going to go ahead and give you some tips and tricks, things to understand what they are. So first of all, what are DataViews and what can they be used for? Well, DataViews are, the main thing is to enter your data. This is how you enter data. This is how you query data. Um, but what else can it be used for? We can use these for a type of report. Several states, and I've worked with several of you on this, several states have the ability where they just need a spreadsheet and they just need to be able to see that. We have that capability and we'll go into detail. Another thing, in-house reports. So if you're wanting something special, maybe your engineer calls and says, hey, I need all the flow data for the influent and effluent for 5 years. We can give you that information, and that gives you that ability to go through that. So with that, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to open the data view section. A lot of you have hotspots on your desktop. These hotspots allow you to access the data views that you have. The other main area to go to get into data views is going up into the view section. When you go into view up here in the tab up here at the top, this allows you to open data views. By opening data views this way, what this allows you to do is it goes in and opens the app and it opens the data view application. At this point, what this allows, we can go in and we can do several things. Just like you have your hotspots on your data on your desktop, you can also access any data view that has been defined, whether you have a hotspot for it or you have a look, maybe you don't have a hotspot for it. Everything can be accessed by going into the home section on data view and click on open. This will give you a list of all your data views that you have, anything that's been defined, and you can open them from there, okay? So this, one thing to remember about data views, and this is a lot of people I've ran across and we've talked to, they don't realize you can have multiple data views open at one time. Usually what ends up happening is they close the data view, they go back to the hotspot, they open another one, they close it and open it up again. But one of the nice things about the data view application is this. We can open up a data view, okay? We can have it open, but then we can go back up to open again and we can open another one. So in this case here, I have the effluent one already open. I can go and open the influent one and I have it open. I've never technically closed this. This is one of those neat little things that you can do and have multiple data views open. So if you have multiple of them open, well, how do we go about switching? How do we change? In the menu item up here at the top, we have a switch. So when we go and we drop down on this, this allows us to switch back and forth between the data views. So if I have multiple open, I can switch back and forth. This also gives us an area in which we can arrange data views. All right, so I have multiple open. I can come up here and I can arrange them vertically. So I have them side by side. Now, do I have to have them open for the same date? No, not at all. So for example, this effluent, plant effluent one, which I'm highlighting, I can actually come in here and I can now open it for a different date. So if I go into all the way back into 2022, I can go back and I can see it. I can see the data for it, but I'm also on the plant influent. I'm on the current year of February of 24. So that gives you some flexibility, being able to go and jump back and forth without having to, and I can look at different dates. You can do comparisons. Your range function does give you different options. You can cascade them like I'm doing right now. I'm tiling vertically. We can flip it and tile them horizontally. Again, the idea here is to have, you can have them open, but you don't have to close them. So if, for example, I have them open and I need to go do something else, right? Maybe I have to do a chart or I have to do a report. I don't have to close this section. I can minimize it and it takes me right back to the desktop. When I'm in the desktop, then I can go to different areas. I can open up reports, I can open up charts, whatever. And then when I'm ready to go back into it, is I can come back down to the bottom and just click on it and I'm back into the data view section. The idea here is, let's make this, you can leave this open. If you do close the application, the main application, this will stay open. You still need to close it. If you leave it minimized, I know several of you, we've ran into this with several of you, where you're calling, I can't get data views to open. Well, come to find out, it was just minimized down in the data in the section. So you're able to maximize it and reopen it and be able to go from there. So then when you have data views open and we decide we want to close the ones that I have open, the application still stays open. So how do I create new ones? A lot of you have data views already set up, but you want to create something new. Maybe you got a new operator and they want to create something, or like I mentioned earlier, the engineering firm goes and they call you and say, hey, I need this data for this amount of time. How do we go and create them? It's very simple. We go up here to the top and we click on the new button. When we click on the new button, what's going to come up? It's going to come up with a list of location parameters that you have in your facility. This is everything that shows up. So the first thing you want to do is define what type of data view type you have. There are three types of data views that we have. We have an hourly, we have a daily, and a month summary. Hourly, if you select hourly, you will only see location parameters that have been defined as hourly location parameters. So the rest of them will disappear. I mean, they don't disappear. Technically, they just disappear from the list because we're looking at hourly data views. Hourly data views will allow you to open it up and it creates it for one day for, by default, a 24-hour period. So you'll have 24 blanks that you'll be able to fill in for the day. We run into this with water plants a lot. A lot of water plants facilities, they go and they do 15-minute turbidities or things like that. This is how you would view that data and enter that data. So if I did click on hourly, this happens to be the only hourly location parameter that I have. So I would have to go, this is the only one I'd be able to add to the data view. Daily, which is what the majority of your data views probably are, these are data views that open up for by default, a month, and it will show every day for a given month. That's what the default setting is. Okay. Now, month summary, what it does when we select it is the same list as daily location parameters, but it opens it up in a month data view. So it's a month summary. You will not enter data in a month summary. This is just summary information based off of daily data. So it will open up for January, February, March, a 12-month period, showing a summary for each month. We'll go through each of these as we go, but I wanted to explain those are the different types. So when you go and you do daily and you have this grid open, one of the things you can do is, just like in any of the grids in the program, not just here, but anywhere, you can actually filter. Because like, for example, we have several hundred location parameters in here. I can actually go and I can filter just by typing effluent, and I can filter anything that has the word, well, EFFL that is in there. Now, how do we select them? I can do several things. I can go in and I can left click and drag, and I can select them. I can click on them individually by holding my control key down and just clicking on them, which is how I normally do it. Or you can go one farther. Yes, we filtered by location. Let's say I want to do it and I want to filter by TSS. I can actually go and filter by TSS, and I can see everything that it has TSS in it. So I can filter numerous ways and I can select accordingly. Now, one thing when we do this, and this is something that is a little trick I can give you here, and this is a hint, the order in which you select your location parameters is the order in which they will show up on the data view. So if I have a particular order, let's say I want to start with my flow, and then I want to go down and I want to get my pH min and max, and I'll come down here and I'll get the water temperature, and then I go up here and I get my dissolved oxygen, and then my BOD, my ammonia, let's see here, BOD, I got ammonia, I can get my solids TSS, whichever I grab. The order in which I grab those, when I click on OK, this is the order in which the data view, the columns are in the data view. So when you're doing new ones and you're doing a new one, if there's certain things and you want it in a certain order, you can grab those and pull those into that order. It saves you having to move the columns around. So when we go and we select the data view, this is the default layout. We're going to give you this as a default layout, and we'll show you some changes on what we can do. But as having this as a default layout, you have the ability of, say you want to look at data. So for example, I have data in our database here for 2022. So I'm able to just change the date and I see the data already there. Just like in the past, data views are not one of those things that you're storing the data in the data view, you're storing the data in the database because of how the program works. Now, as we go through and as we're putting data in here and as we're looking at this, now how do we do it? What can we do with this data view? What are some of the different areas? So the main area is the properties section. This is where you're going to do a lot of initial setup and saving of the data view. So when we go into properties, the property window will show up and we have some options. First thing we have is the general tab in the setup options. We ask for a facility name and we say it's optional. The reason we do that and we ask for a facility name is this gives us filtering capabilities on our data views. I know a few of you have multiple facilities. Maybe you have 2 treatment plants that are in your database. Maybe you have a lab facility in there. Well, you can associate that data view with a given facility. So if you have multiple in there, when you open the data view section and you go up to pick your data views, you can actually say filter that list and gives you that filter capability. It's not a requirement, that's why we say it's optional. But if you do, you can come in and you can grab your facility name and put it in there. Next, we ask you to give it a data view name. This name is what's going to be used when you go and create a hotspot on your desktop. This is something that, again, tells what a story, gives it a title of what this data view is going to be. So what I'm going to do is just give it a name called Webinar Data View. That's what I'm going to call it. We can then go and we can switch. As I said, by default, we're doing a daily data view is what we're doing. If you realize you're creating this and you realize, oh, I wanted a month summary, you can actually change it right here and change it to a month summary right at that point. Display range. By default, we're going to do a full month. We can actually go in and change that. We can give you some default options on how you open it. So if this is something you're always wanting to see for a custom date range, we can actually go custom so you're prompted when you go into the data view and it tells you, ask you for a date range of what you're wanting to look at, so it doesn't have to necessarily be a calendar month. Our startup on data views are always the current period. So in this case, we're opening for February of 24. So that's what the default open range would be. You can always set that also if you're always wanting to go into the previous month period, you can do that, or we can prompt you for what type of period you're wanting to go into. Some other things down here at the bottom, just some intermittent, some inverted and protected. I'll show you some of that stuff here in a little while. But then besides that, you can also do some display options. So if you're not wanting to see icons, if you're wanting to see different things, if you want labels done, just some default settings that you're allowed to go through. Another one of the big things in a data view is being able to change your fonts. We do allow you to put group headers on there, and this is something that I usually change. A lot of times I will go and I'll change my group headers so that they are maybe they're a different color. So I'm going to change them to a maroon, and I want to be bold and I want to set it at 10. So when I do group headers, it shows up a little bit better. So I can do that. We get questions every once in a while. How can I show the days of the week? I want to be able to see the days of the weeks without having, because it's useful. Just like to see it. I know several of the state reports I found actually show that on there and actually look for that day of the week. So what we can do here is under the date row header down here at the halfway down, there's a date format. By default, we're using a short date, which is month, day, year. That's what our short date is. You can actually change this and we can do a short date with DOW. DOW means day of week. So by selecting that, when we go and we save it, it will actually put the day of the week right beside that date. So if I were to go ahead and click OK right now, and I'll span this over because I can't see it because of the size, it actually put the day of the week right beside the date. And that is something that you can do and save that data view from that standpoint. So now back into the properties. And again, font and color, you can change the font and color for your headers, for your column headers, for dates, for the data itself, you can change it. 9 times out of 10, the default is going to work just fine for you. And it gives you that capability of leaving it, and it's using your system color, your system settings basically is what's doing it. So from that standpoint, we can go in and we can hit OK, and we can save this. If this is all we wanted to do, I can save right where I'm at. To save the data view formatting is to go up here and hit the save button. All right. That then saves any formatting changes we've done. So when I close this and reopen it, it will be the exact same thing. Now, a little misconception of what that save button does. We have a lot of clients that you'll go in, you'll enter all your data, and when you're done entering your data, you go up in here and hit the save button. At that point, it has done absolutely nothing. Your data does not have to be saved. When data is entered into a data view, as soon as you hit enter and move off the cell you're entering data, that piece of data has been saved in the database. So it's not something that has to be saved. If you hit the save button, it's not going to do anything. If it makes you feel comfortable, you can go ahead and do that. It's not a problem. But this save button, what this does is to save any formatting changes that you've done to the data view. So any setup. So if I make columns wider or I move columns, at that point, you're going to want to hit save. If you do make changes and you don't hit the save, it will prompt you right when you exit, hey, do you want to save these changes? It'll prompt you for that. And of course you say yes at that point if it's stuff that you wanted to save. Now, back into the property section, some things to show you, things that you're able to do. I can come up here and I can go back to the properties, and this accesses the property information. We have 3 tabs. The main data view structure properties, we have a column setup, and we have a print properties setup. So when we go into into the column setup, we have a couple options on how we can get in here. We can do it by the properties, and we just change tabs. If you're back out here on the data view, if you right click on one, you can go straight to column properties. By doing that, it takes you to the column properties on the column in which you have highlighted. And it takes you right in here and actually goes in and lets you see that changes there and lets you to go in. And that's the one you're looking at. Now, one of the things we talked about, let's say you have this all set up and you have things the way you want, but you realize, oh, I need to add some more. So for example, I want to add some influent data. You have a couple options. If I'm on this given parameter here, I can actually right click on it and I can do insert a column before or insert a column after. By doing that, when I do that, it'll bring up the location parameter list, and then I can select it, and by selecting the parameter and I hit OK, it'll put it before or after depending on which one you're wanting to do. The other option that you have is you can go up here to the plus sign. The little drop down arrow before will actually give you that exact same option as the before and after. It also adds add columns. So when you do an add and you're just using the plus, and we go in here and again, I'm just going to filter for a few things here. We're going to grab the influent flow and the BOD, the ammonia, and we'll grab the TSS. When I grab those and I hit OK, it adds them to the end if I'm using just the plus sign. It adds it to the end of moving that. Now, at that point, I can hit OK. And again, as you can see, it shows the data right here. All right. The other thing that we can do is by doing that and putting that data in, and we're able to jump around and move data around and change, we can then move this information if we want to. We have it here. We can move the data to however we want to. If I want to move these columns, let's say I want to move them up to the front, we can go and left click and we can drag and it'll move it to wherever we drop it. Now, if I want to move all these columns at once, so I'll put that one back where we had it, and I want to move all 4 of these to the front, all I have to do is select cells in all 4 of those. These are connecting cells only. At that point, I can left click and I can drag, and I can move all 4 of them at the same time. They do have to be connected location parameters, okay? It can't be like grab this column here and then this column here. You have to grab them all at the same time if you're wanting to move them. They have to be connected from that standpoint. So now we go back to the column properties and there's things that we can do. We talked about a group header. So one of the things we can do is I can go in and you can grab by using your control key or your shift key, and I can select all the influent. I can also go in up here at the top and I can filter. So I'm going to grab just the influent and then I can select them all. At that point, I can come over here to the right and where it says group header, we can go in and we can type whatever we want to use for the group header. All right, so I've selected those. I can go in and like I said, we can grab the same thing. We can grab just the ones that we want. And I can type in what I want. By doing that and I hit OK, what now it does is it puts that group header. Remember how back at the beginning, I showed you how we can change that color and we change that font. You're able to go in and actually put that information in there. Again, the idea is just to give you a way of grouping things together. Now, I want to save these changes, so all I have to do now is I hit save, and everything that we've done up to this point saves the changes. Now, as you noticed is when we came into when I added these additional, the column headers are a gray color. Now, if I want to change those, again, we can go back into the column properties, and this allows us to change the color of the headers. We are allowed to do a lot of things on a given column or groups of columns. So if I want to go and I want to take all these influent ones, I can select them all and I can come up here and I can change the background color. This allows you to change a custom color. You can use web colors, you can use system colors. There's a whole lot of options in what you can do. But if I come in here and I want to use it, I have now changed those those column headers to blue, because that's what I changed it to. Back into the column properties. Then on each column, you can change things. If you want to have a display format, so if you're doing large numbers and you don't want digit grouping, so like if you're doing um, mixed liquor suspended solids, normally by default it would be 2,500 with a comma after the 2 to break the grouping up. If you don't want digit grouping, you can select it and say no digit grouping. If you have a column you're working on and it's a money column, such maybe you're doing chemical costs or something like that, you can select it. You can select that data display format and actually put the $ in there. Same way with percent. So if you're doing percent removals and you want to see that percent side, you can actually put a percent on there as well, and it'll actually show it on that. Now, any of these changes that we're making, um, color, uh, groupings, decimal places, any of that stuff we're doing, it only affects this data view. It does not affect all of them that has that location parameter. It affects just this one that we're working on. So we can come in here and we can make any modifications. So if we want to change the decimal places, maybe we want to change it down to 2. We can do that. We can change what summary locations we're going to be looking at. Maybe you don't, on a pH, for example, you don't need a sum on a pH, so you can uncheck that. And it gives you that capability of going in and changing things how you want to do that. Now, another little trick here that I can show you that's really kind of nice. If I want to come in here, for example, I want to have flow 1 million gallons a day, and I want to change both of them at the same time. Maybe I want the decimal precision on both of them to be 2. Maybe I don't want the max and min on those. So I can uncheck those. I'm unchecking them for both of the ones that are selected. This gives you the ability, then we can come in here and change the column header. By default, we give you the location, the facility location and parameter description. That's what we give you here. Now, since I've done group headers and I've called them plant influent and plant final effluent, I can actually come in here and change what those are to something a little bit more that's shorter, but makes a little bit more sense without having to worry about the location, because I've actually done the location name in the group header. So I can come in here under the column header. I can come in here and we can go flow, and I can put a space, and I do MGD for million gallons a day. When I do that and I hit OK, both of those headers now have been changed. So they're both changed. I didn't have to change them individually. Now, if you want to change a column header individually, all you have to do is right click on the header and you can edit the column header. This allows you to change it. You can change it to whatever you want. Again, all we're changing is the header on the data view. We're not changing what location parameter it's attached to. We're just changing the header here. So that gives you some options on how you want to change that. You can change them individually. If you're changing a bunch of them that are the same, you can come in and, like I said, we can go into the column properties. You can select all the ones that are the same, and you can change all the headers at the same time. Format does not matter. Again, it's whatever you're wanting to change it to is what you can change it to. All right. So by doing that, and we come in here, now what are some other things that we need to know about data views? Again, we've made changes, so we can hit save and we can save those property changes that we've done. If you're wanting to change column widths, right now our default is, I think it's 100 or something like that. If we want to change that, you can click on it and drag and change it. So you can change it down to whatever column width you want. If we're wanting to change all the column widths on the data view to the same, and you want to do them all at once instead of having to go through and do them individually, if you click on the date, it highlights the first, all the columns, something in all the columns. I can then go and I can grab one of them, it doesn't matter which one, and I can change it down to whatever I want. So I can change the width down to, we'll go 75. So I just changed all the widths completely at one time without having to do them individually. Just a way of formatting that and being able to see what information that you're wanting to do. Again, it is a property change, so we would want to save those changes. Now, some other things in a data view. When we go in and we create a data view, and once you have one created, one of the things that we're able to do then is we can go in and out at your desktop, you can go and create a hotspot. If you're not doing hotspots and you're not doing that, check out the dashboard section. You can also check out the help file on how to create dashboards and things along that nature. But we can come out here and I can left click and I can create a hotspot for my data view that I just created, my webinar data view, and we hit OK, and there's my hotspot. We save it, then I have access to it right here. So that's one of the nice things about it. And again, we'll probably do a webinar or something on dashboards and stuff a later time. But this gives us access to this, be able to go in and grab that and grab the information. Now, let's say, for example, I want to do a new data view on engineer calls. And we've mentioned that a couple times already. The engineer calls and says, I need all your flows for the last 5 years. Well, I can come in here and I can find the flows that I need. Maybe I want to get my secondary effluent. Well, let's start with the influent, my effluent, my EQ feed, things along that lines. Uh, my secondary effluent and my primary effluent. I want to grab all those things, all those flow values. Well, in doing so, I have it set as a daily. And I can come in and I can, but I don't need to see it as a daily. Maybe I just need a month summary for each month. So instead of having it as daily, I'll go ahead and I will say month summary. By doing that and hitting OK, what it does is, like I told you before, it's going to give you for a month summary for each one of the location parameters. Now, this is where things are a little bit different. So for example, here, if we go into the column properties, by default, we are going to give you the total. Down here at the bottom, we have a summary value type. By default, we're going on a year summary, we're going to default sum for each month. So it's going to give you the total value for each month. So when I come in here and I'm looking at the influent, I'm going to see the total for the month. But if I don't want to see that, I can actually go and I can change it to the average, the max, min, whichever. So if I'm needing to see the total for the month, the max for the month, the min for the month of a given location parameter, I just add that same location parameter over and over again. And then I change the summary type. Okay. So when I go okay and I have that in here, again, we default to the current time period. I can go back and I hit previous up here. This takes me back to 23. I can come up here and I can just go and change the year. This takes me back to 22. Again, I'm looking at the totals for each of those, not the individual ones. Now, remember I said the engineer wanted the summary values for 5 years. Well, instead of calendar year, I can come up here and I can do a custom date range. At which point it's going to ask me for a calendar. So I'm going to go in here and we'll go back to 2019 is where we'll end up going. And we'll go January 1st, 2019 through December of 24. So when I hit confirm, it takes me a little bit for it to open. Come on. Nope. It's not letting me open it for some reason. Not really. Doesn't like my date range. But we can come in here and we can go in and we can change that information, and it allows us to go in and see that. Okay. So what we're going to do is I've got a data view issue printer. It doesn't like my print thing. So I'm going to go ahead and in my printer stuff on that, and we'll go back into the data view. So when we go and we have that information, and again, the month one, it allows you to go in and see that monthly data information. Here's one that I already have set up for us for the annual flows, so you can get an idea by doing this. We can come in, like I said, the month average, the month total, and then we can do the average and total on all those and whatever information you want, and it's going to show them for a given time period. And it allows you to go and grab those. So if we switch back to our webinar data view, let's say I want to go and I want to see this for 5 years. Again, going the custom date range allows you to grab that information and grab it and put it into what date range you're wanting to do. Another thing that we have questions, and this is something that's very useful. Let's say you have a data view that's already defined. Okay. So for example, we're going to open one, and I'm going to open my, where's that? We're going to go ahead and open my effluent one, my plant effluent one. Let's say I have one already set up. All right. I know I have data here, and this is everything that's associated with it. And this is all the information I want. Well, let's say I want to go, it's got everything on it. The headers all look the way I want, but I don't need all this stuff, but I don't want to have to create a brand new one. This is where you can go and you can create a copy. So up here at the top where it says plant effluent data right here at the top, I can come in here and I can do a save as. This allows me to go in and give it a different name. So we can go in and give it a name, my effluent DV or data view. I'm just giving it a name. So watch what happens. When I go and I hit OK, it now changes the name up here to my effluent DV. It is now the one I just made a copy of the one I wanted. So at that point, I can go into the column properties. I can go to column properties. I can get rid of information that I don't want. I can reorganize it by just clicking and dragging. So if I want these here, I want them up here at the beginning, I can do so. I can do whatever I want to do to this data view, and I'm doing it in a copy. I'm not doing messing with the original one. I'm messing with a copy of the data view that I currently have. So again, once I have my changes, I hit save, and now I have that one in here as well. The idea being is without having to create a brand new one, this gives you the ability of creating smaller data views or creating something specific for you. One of the things that I have a tendency to do when I'm creating data views for people, I will make one big data view, and then I will go and do my save as and get rid of stuff that I don't want, so I can make smaller ones just to make easier for data entry, for how I want to do things, and it just makes it that much easier. Some other things that you can do on data views, and again, this is the um, things that we allow you to do formatting wise to change things. I've shown you the monthly one, I've shown you daily ones. Well, one of the things that you're also able to do, and this is some settings that you can set in, if I want to go and I want to create a data view that is for a calendar week, I can do so, and I can change how I'm looking at things. Normally we have location parameters across the top and the dates are down the side. We can actually change that. That is done by in the properties where I told you about that inverted view. This is an inverted view. It makes it a little bit easier from the standpoint. You just take any data view and you can change it to inverted, change your column headers to match. And what this allows is when I hit enter, I'm going down instead of across. Just makes it a lot easier for entering data. This can be used for an operator logbook or a way of, in this case, it's a lab data entry. Am I doing it by test so they can come down through and they can put those results right in. Uh, Gives you a little bit more functionality, a little bit more creative. I like to use this for the operators for when they do their operator logbook. They can actually come in here and they're only worrying about the current month, the current week. I don't have to worry about the entire month where I'm at, but it gives them something to look at. You can always go previous and move back and to the previous week if they want to see something. Again, just to make something a little bit more flexible for your operators. Um, Another thing that you can do is if you go and you're doing for a date range or whatever, um, open our webinar one back up. Oops, wrong one, but we'll go with this one. Let's say I'm in here and I do it for this date range for a given date range or whatever, and see how there's blank data in here. So if I come in here and I'm putting data in, but I go in here and it's 50, and again, we don't care what the data is. And I have these blank rows in here. If I come up here at the top and I hit intermittent, what it does is it takes all those blank rows out. So if you're looking at it for a calendar year, for example, and I'm wanting to go in and I look at a calendar year and I've got a bunch of blank rows, if I hit intermittent, it will take any of those blank rows out. Now, that is blank rows that are completely blank for the entire data view, not just for a column. Um, Again, idea is just to give you that flexibility of being able to do that, being able to verify and see what information that you have. Now, another thing that you're able to, one of the things, and we've talked about this, is let's say the engineer wants this information. He wants it for whatever time period you're giving it to him. Well, one of the things that you can do is you can go up to tools and we have an export capability. In that export capability, you have three options. You can do it as a CSV or Excel or an XML. Either one of those, when you go and export it, and let's say we're doing it as an Excel file, we can export that. That will allow you to give it a name and save it somewhere. At that point, you have it and you can send it to them. You can attach it to an email and send it. The idea, just giving you information on how you're wanting to get information out to somebody, um, and go from that way. So if we come in here and we are back into our data view and we're in here and we have data here and we're looking at this information, some functions that are available inside inside data views that you may or may not know. Uh, First of all, right click. We do have right click capabilities such as adding alpha codes. Alpha codes are basically a list of alpha characters that are available that you can go and define ahead of time. We have our default ones that are in here, but you can create as many as you want. So if you have a list of employees and you're using an operator list, you can actually add all of them in here, and then you can select from this list to add them to a data view. Data views also use the standard Windows functions of cut, copy, paste, delete, save Windows shortcuts that you're going to use inside the program in any Windows program. There is a show summary. If when you're in a data view and you select a group of values, if you look down here in the lower left, there is actually a count, sum, average, max, min, geometric mean, and standard deviation for that highlighted group of cells. You also have the ability of right-clicking and go to show summary. This shows you the exact same information. It's down at the bottom, but it is a window format, so it's just a different way of looking at it. You have a read selected data. If you have a speakers on your machine, it will actually read that data back to you, so you can actually read it. You can print selected data. Again, it'll print it out, not in a grid format, but in a quick way of looking at it. Another thing you can do is you can add notes to a cell. These are what we call quick notes. When you right click on it and you're in here and we go in and we right click on something and we go quick note editor. What this does is it gives you a window and it's going to log you as facility, the location parameter, and who you're logged in as. It goes here. You can then come in here and you can type whatever type of notes you want. Whatever you want to type in. So when you hit save on it, what it does is puts a caret in that upper right-hand corner. So when you mouse over that, the note will pop up. It is not just like data. It is not on this data view. It is associated with that piece of data for that date and time. So any data view that has this value on, this note will be accessible. You also have the ability of do a calculator, let you calculate and enter values, and you can review data. But these are just some of the functions that we have available inside of a data view that you may or may not know. Printing wise is going to use the print functions that you have set up. So if we go into the properties, when you want to print a data view, the print property is going to be based off of your machine. So you can come in here under print properties. You can show options. What do you want to show? Do you want to show the grid lines? Do you not want to? Whatever. You can go in and change your formatting to landscaping or portrait, whichever, and you can size it if you want to fit it to page, that's fine as well. You can change your margins along with header and footer options, and it allows you to go in and define these. Again, this is for this given data view, not for all of them, but for this given data view. And you can assign all that. So when you go ahead and you save those functions, then when you go to print it, again, based off of your printer itself, you get a window that you can actually come in here and you can preview it. It will show everything here based on the settings that you have and things that we selected, and we can put it all in there. You can also at that point, I know several of you have stuff where you have to send a PDF file copy of your report. If you are using this as a report, you can actually save it as a PDF. You can actually email it as a PDF, and it'll actually save it and go accordingly. This allows you to go in, save it, go forward with it, and being able to go and have that information to that. So data views, in summary, data views are useful for your data entry. It's useful for reporting. Um, don't be afraid to create as many data views as you want. Go ahead and create big ones, create small ones, do them for individual people. Just make sure that you're using data views in what's going to suit your needs. One of the things to remember, and this is something that I'll show you here real quick. If you are in data views or wherever you are in the program, if you hit F1 on your keyboard, you're going to get help. The help file will open to that. So when we're in the data view application, we can actually hit F1 and this will bring this here. Another thing to remember is this. If you go to the support tab and you go to our website, and when we come to the website, we can go check out the knowledge base articles, and we can actually go in for whatever program you're looking for, and you can go and you can select for data views, you can filter it, and it will give you everything you need to know, and a lot of the information that we've already covered here today, like creating new data views, adding formulas, adding a column, things like that. It will allow you to go and see that information and be able to get it for you without having to jump around. All right, so that's some things that you can do with the data view, and I hope today's been useful for you. Fill out the questions that you have, like Ryan was mentioning earlier. Go ahead and fill out those questions, get those available to us, get those back to us, and then we will be able to go and answer those questions for you and get you a list of questions. We hope this has been useful for us. Let us know what other things you want to look at. So now I'm going to turn it over to Daryl and let him go from there.
Thanks so much, BJ, and thanks everyone for logging on to today's webinar. As we mentioned at the beginning, we're really excited about the future of AllMax and all the things that we have to offer with you. I've been with AllMax for just about a year now, but I came from a previous JDM company before that and have been in other softwares for quite a while. So excited about what we have to offer from the AllMax side. A few other things that we have kind of going on right now. So we have several trade shows that we will be attending this year. If anyone's going to the AWWA ACE show in June in Anaheim, we will be there. We will be at Wastewater, and we will be back at WEFTech again this year in New Orleans. Looking forward to it. So look us up when you come by there. So today was kind of one of the first, kind of public training that we talked about. We have additional training options. So we can offer kind of a personalized, customized online training experience in like 2-hour blocks. You can always sign up for and use as you need. Maybe you have new employees. Maybe you saw some of the DataView stuff today and you say, hey, that's not how ours looks, or that's not how we're using it. How can we get that additional customization? We can help with that. We also offer on-site training. And with that, we are exploring the ability to offer contact hours to several different states. So we have several different states currently approved. We have others that we're in process on. And if that's an interest that you have, let us know, and we can figure out what requirements we need to get contact hours approved with the on-site training. And then we also, these H2Go and Intero work sites are kind of specific training products for specific aspects of these programs. So within the operations, within Antero, we have kind of a menu of these different options that we can go into your system and configure it how you need it for that. So we're always here to help, and we appreciate the time again. Tomorrow you'll be getting that email with a copy of the recording with a discount code. So for purchasing or interested in some of the additional training options that we're offering, as well as that survey that we talked about. But of course, always feel free to email sales at AllMax Software or your specific contact person that you're working with, and we are happy to help. So thanks very much, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one with Antero next month.